To this heartwarming story now, although partly tragic. The new Somerset Hospital nurse, Sister Diane Seale, and her colleagues have been applauded for their bravery. Seale managed to calm down a gunman who opened fire and killed 3 people at the hospital on Saturday night. This on International Nurses Day. We are joined by Sister Seale alongside the head of emergency center, that's Dr. Roger Dickerson, and the acting CEO of the hospital, Dr. Jacques Hendricks. To all of you, my thanks for talking to us on this International Nurses Day. Let me start with you, acting CEO, Dr. Hendricks. When you heard about this incident, what went through your mind, I think particularly in terms of safety at your hospital?
Hi, Xoli. I got the call, I was the first one to receive the call, and initially it was quite confusing because the information that I was receiving was that there was a gunman loose and sort of running around and one patient at that stage was shot. And at first I must say, happiness that all the nurses, I must acknowledge all the nurses. And as I heard, obviously, it sounded chaotic over the phone. And at that stage, immediately I we've got a command system, and I informed EMS and the disaster management immediately to lock down the facility, and that, I relayed the message that there's a gunman loose. At that stage, I actually instructed our staff not to go to the incident. But, unfortunately, they didn't. Fortunately, they didn't hear to my command. And so, as I was coming to the hospital, while I was driving, I informed the police, and we got all the tactical response to respond. But as the information got a bit clearer that we've actually had one ward that was really the problem, and that there was a policeman who basically, was overpowered, and that a patient actually shot the policeman. And at that stage, I only heard about the one shot that went off. That's when I literally arrived at the hospital. Sister Seale phoned me, in fact, and said to me, this is her words, "Lovey, I've managed to sedate him and the situation is under control." And I was at that stage really in shock to actually hear that she actually went, and herself actually calmed down the situation.
Wow. I mean, what a story this is. We're going to talk to Sister Seale in a moment. I see her chuckling there when she hears her words that she said to you, "Lovey, I've gotten control of this situation." Dr. Dickerson, you are the head of emergency at this hospital, and you were there on the day. Must have been a frightening experience. How did this person get a hold of a firearm in the first place?
It's often difficult. So firstly, the emergency centre team, whether at New Somerset Hospital or across the province, are accustomed to dealing with mass trauma. What we are not accustomed to is dealing with mass trauma inside of our own houses. And we consider Somerset Hospital to be our home, since that we spend more time here, certainly, than we do at home. Mm. With regards to how the assailant got hold of the firearm, there was an altercation between a member of the South African Police Service and the assailant, and quite a ferocious struggle ensued between them. And it was at that stage that the assailant got hold of the firearm and appears to have shot the member of the South African Police Service which resulted ultimately in a fatal wound. That police officer was in the ward in that he was accompanying another patient who was under police guard. That patient was not involved in this event at all, and the policeman had become involved because of the aggression shown by the assailant, who was one of the other patients in the ward. But to go back to your other question, this was a frightful scene, not only knowing that there were many, many patients who had been injured, but also that there were significant numbers of patients who were potentially going to be wounded, and one of our own was trapped inside.
My goodness.
Our focus at that stage is to ensure that we keep as many people safe as possible, that we institute emergent therapy, and we were able to move this patient briefly round the corner into the nearby operating theatres to stabilize the police officer and get him in as stable a condition as possible, and then transferred him through to the specialist trauma unit at the tertiary hospital in Protestia.
Yeah. Sister Seale, let's come to you. It is that moment. I'm told you're quite nervous to talk to me. Please, I am the last person that you would be frightened of, because you approached a person with a gun and you managed somehow to sedate him. Just talk us through what you did to manage all of this.
The bottom line being is the call came. We were busy actually with handover. That was between day stop and night stop, the matrons. And the call came and I just heard the screaming. She took the call. When she terminated it, she had told me, it's Zweli. Okay, it was the ward. So the bottom line, I just said I would look into it. And I went up. As I passed our security, just a station outside the lift, I asked them to get the security guys to the second floor. I proceeded to the second floor on entering. Right at the entrance, I saw the cop lying on the floor, covered in blood. And I thought the worst, but then I heard the guy. And as I looked up, I saw the gunman. That was our patient. And I walked in, just shushing him, and I hugged him. And I got him into the cubicle. There we had our talk, trying to talk him down, asking to drop the revolver, which he wasn't prepared to do really, after several attempts. And then eventually we had a gentle talk. He calmed down, there was lucid moments, but the bottom line being is, when he asked me to take him out, I just took it the way he speak. And I said the only way I can do that, because I'm here for life and limb, is to give him the injection. He consented willingly. I then proceeded to the door and I asked for sedation, which they had given. And when I returned into the cubicle, because this was all behind closed doors, I felt safer with it closed, although he had asked me, but that was fine with me. And then I sedated him, and he actually assisted by holding his arm and lifting his sleeve. And once I saw him going into the full sedation, I got him onto the bed. I asked him actually, and he got down. And from there on in, I just said, speaking through until full sedation happened. That's when I could go to the door and ask the tactical team to get still inside.
And did he explain to you what the commotion was about, why he was so angry and agitated?
Look, he never ever spoke about why he was agitated, but I could see he was agitated and he was determined. And that is why I thank God that I got him to be seated and I was above him. So at least there was more control also. And what gave me the courage is that when I hugged him, he allowed me to hug him with an empty space. And he dropped his arm, his hand that had the revolver.
Your psychiatric experience, I'm told, 20 years. When you are said to be a psychiatric nurse, explain to people who may not understand your your skill? What is it that you are trained to do?
Bottom line is obviously you have to have a calm demeanor. You have to take control of the situation. Sometimes it's not that easy, so you go along with the patient, which I did. And at the end of the day, it's really my good state.
Sure.
That's the situation.
You did. Very, very short and to the point. Dr. Hendricks, when you hear of the detail, as Sister Seale puts it, it's a proud moment for your hospital, but it doesn't take away the kinds of conditions that your staff work under. And to add to that kind of pressure, you then have a situation like this. I understand that the Deputy Minister of Health has actually been commenting on this story. What would your message be to him, particularly on a day like this that celebrates nurses, around not just the safety issues, but the working conditions of people like Sister Seale?
Xoli, it's not just the Seale, but there were so many nurses on that day that had sort of, a real close encounter with this situation. And they're all heroes, the Deputy Health Minister was actually here. He came to visit us on the Sunday, actually. So we really appreciated the support we got from Department of Health, from the Premier's office. In fact, the Premier was here within an hour, as he was as close by, and actually that made quite a difference on the night, because he could sort of manage the external media and information, because there was a lot of sort of wrong information that initially was sort of spread. So he could manage the situation, and that really helped a lot. But if I could say to the Deputy Minister, I would say, look, we come to work to sort of, help our patients, and we live for our patients. And the last thing we want is to be feeling unsafe, And I think we can do more, There can be more resources towards, not just security, but other things around security, a perimeter. I think there needs to be a real look at SOPs and policies that manages gun control and sort of our relationship with the SAPS and correctional services, When these patients are also patients, they come on site, but there needs to be better control around sort of how do we manage these scenarios. So I'm hoping that there's going to be, that this opportunity, our hearts goes out to the families that lost their loved ones, but let's use this opportunity that it don't happen again, So that would be my message to the Minister here.
Dr. Dickerson, as head of emergency, what would you say you most need, your staff most needs within that hospital, given the experience that you bore witness to? What is it that you are in desperate need of? And maybe that could possibly come through.
I think what this incident has highlighted is probably three broad points. The first is that the human resource is invaluable, and particularly experienced, well-trained, logical people who are able to work together, who are able to respond to an incomprehensible situation and do the best they can with the information that they've got, the knowledge that they've got, and save lives. And that saving life may have been, as Diane did, by literally putting her own at risk to disarm a shooter. It may be to manage patients who had been shot. But it also comes down to looking after the staff after the event. And even though she'd been through this whole situation, Diane went on to debrief with her staff and her patients to make sure that the healing could begin as soon as possible. The second point is with regards to a safe working environment. And I think that is something that we all want. Yeah. And that safe working environment is not always that easy to achieve when it comes to the unpredictable situations like that happened on Saturday night.
Sister Seale?
And if I had an absolute wish list, yes, I would have 100 nurses like Sister Seale.
Well, on that happy note, Sister Seale, you're not going to escape me just yet. Final question to you. Your family members, I mean, it must have been such a horrific scene when you explained it to them. I don't know what to ask you, actually, except to say you are our hero. Thank you very much for your bravery. And I don't know anything else except to blow a lot of kisses towards you. And thank you very much for being the hero that you are. Do you have any last few words? In particular for your colleagues, because I'm told you are insistent that this was not an individual effort. It was some of the nurses that were with you on the day.
It was definitely a team effort. One thing I can say is the two guys next to me, I saw them, and that even, you have this way, called it adrenaline rush, whether you want to admit there's anxiety or not. When you see your own, that at least gets that calming effect on you. And that is what I had. That I could go to our nurses and speak to them and get up to the patients. But it was a team effort because behind the scenes, everybody was doing their bit. Irrespective of whether I was inside, they were there. They were there to pick me up if I had fallen. And for me, that would be to tell the story. And from here on in, like they said, we can learn from it. But teamwork is essential.